to order for a public hearing on the FY19 budget. We also have a special call meeting that will be hosted by the mayor later today, so we'll hold the pledge till that time. Yeah. All right, thank you all for being here today. I'm Virgil Watkins, chairman of the Operations and Finance Committee. Today, the Mayor Rickard is with us, Councilmember Pro Tem Al Tillman, Commissioner Joe Allen, Commissioner Mallory Jones, Commissioner Lucas, and Commissioner Larry Schlesinger. For the past month, the Operations and Finance Committee has been reviewing the mayor's original proposed budget. His original proposed budget was for $164 million, and the committee met several times over the past month, and we made quite a few changes. This new document is a total of $161 million, and it is a reduction of 0.73 mils from the original proposal for a total millage rate proposal of 2.97 mils. There are a lot of changes in this budget from our previous year. It includes currently 3 furlough days for employees. One of the things that is noteworthy in this year's budget is that it was going to be a painful budget, as we all knew from the press. Quite a few different factors affected us coming into this year's budget. Healthcare costs, pensions, you've all heard about, our overprojection of revenues, our underprojection of expenditures led us to have a lot of painful choices to be made this year. And the proposal spread the pain, I think, amongst pretty much all constituent groups. Taxpayers, property owners, you're seeing a millage rate increase that is relatively significant. Employees are also being asked to share a lot of this burden. A total of 5% reduction in pay is anticipated if passed. It anticipates 3 furlough days, which is 1% of the salary, and it also contemplates a 4% pension increase, which would bring a total of 5% of salaries, or $2.5 million in savings. This budget also contemplates a reduction in the majority of our outside agencies, roughly about 5 to 7% across the board of those agencies as well. We can talk a lot about how we got here, and none of that will change the fact. I'm frustrated about it. We all still have concerns about what happened in the past, and I understand that frustration, and it is shared. But one of the important things to remember as we have this conversation is that we must move forward with a budget and a plan to fund and provide services for this coming year. Today we're providing an opportunity for members of the public to speak to us about your concerns, comments, questions, or joys about our proposed budget. It is online on Macon-Bibb.us. You have up to 5 minutes of free speech time. I would ask that you direct all your comments towards the chair. Please refrain from any derogatory comments about an individual. It is great for you to talk about the body collectively, but please do not talk about a particular individual. I would now open up the floor to any commissioners who would like to make a statement, or the mayor. First on our list today is Mr. Chet Novak. You have 5 minutes, sir. Chet Novak. All right. If he comes in later, he still has an opportunity to speak, but we'll move to Mr. Bryson B. Holloway. Mr. Bryson B. Holloway.
My name is Bryson Holloway. I live at 128 Huntington Place here in Macon. County Commissioners, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak as one of the many Macon-Bibb citizens who are tired of being shafted by these outrageous and unnecessary tax increases. When the idea of consolidation was brought to vote many years ago, it was sold by you, Mr. Mayor, as being a benefit for both the county and the city governments, as it would save money for all involved and would make for a stronger, more united Macon-Bibb. Not only am I still looking for those savings, I'm wondering what happened to the additional $400 I had to pay in property taxes last year. We went from having tens of millions in savings to only having $4 million, and your only response is more tax increases. Now, I'm fortunate enough that I can pay my taxes, but what about the folks that can't afford it? What are you going to do? Take away their homes and auction them off on the square? Charge them with fines? Your logic here is flawed, and it's short-sighted, and that you are bankrupting the tax-paying citizens of Macon-Bibb in order to fund an almost bankrupt government. You don't fix a problem by taking in more money from taxpayers. You fix the problem by cutting spending and stopping the outgo when it exceeds the income. This seems like a very simple concept, but and forgive me, but it's obviously one that you all are struggling with. And I'm sorry, but Mr. Mayor, this is on you, sir, and every single commissioner that voted in favor of those tax increases last time and are considering voting in favor of another 3.7 mills, now 2.9 something mills this time. You, as the government, are here to work for the people, not the other way around. You are supposed to be the stewards of our finances. It's a trust placed in you by the people of Macon-Bibb, and right now, you all are betraying that trust. To put things in perspective, I own a modest home. If this tax increase passes, I will potentially pay over $3,000 at the end of this calendar year. In a neighboring county, someone who owns a house at 3 times my value only pays $500 more than I do. Does that make any sense to you? Are you proud that we are now one of the highest tax counties in Georgia? Well, we're about to find out how much you care. Think wisely and carefully before you vote on this proposed budget. The people are watching, and the next election will be here soon enough. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I call upon Mr. Chet Novak. I think I saw you come in. Yes, sir. Perfect. I understand.
Some of you may have seen me here before. I usually come in with my strolator, but tonight I didn't bring it, and I needed it. I had to have a place to sit. I'm not here to comment on the full tax budget. I'm working with several other people who will talk on various topics. I'm just going to pick apart a little bit of it. First of all, though, I want to pass this around to all the commissioners, because over 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago, I pointed out that there's water bubbling up through my street, and now it's not just water, it's water and sand, and pretty soon you're going to have cars down in a big hole in the street. But nobody seems to care. Macon Water Authority is autonomous. I've notified them. They don't care. The commission doesn't care. Maybe when there's a lawsuit on the town, somebody will care. And that's the main reason why I'm here tonight. I don't have any problem with a budget that's balanced, number one, which I'm not sure this one is because I could not access it myself for some unknown reason. But I do have a problem when the people that are in the budget, and since you don't want me mentioning any names, I'm not going to mention any, don't do their jobs. And I'm talking about all the public officials that do not return calls, that do not follow through. I guess in general I can say the police department, I had a $2,000 theft in August that they've never even started to investigate yet because they keep screwing around, not showing up for appointments, not making callbacks. I'm trying to think of ways not to bring and point any fingers at anybody, but people said I would be getting callbacks from certain people to put pressure on them, and that did not happen. I think we need to look at every department and see that everybody's doing their job. Otherwise, it's a waste of money no matter what the budget is that gets passed. I don't know why I have to go to this extreme to point out a problem. I also have another problem I pointed out where there's a street on a portion of Jeffersonville Road where there are passing lines printed and there's also a left turn allowed. And I almost got hit on it. And I, of course, called the police, then I called 911, and I talked to an officer who was less than 500 feet away from it the same day. And nothing's been done. It's still sitting there and still waiting for me to get hit when I try to make that left-hand turn. So I'm very disappointed in the services I get for the money that we do pay. That's all I have to say at this point. I hope you'll take a look at this. This is water percolating up. It used to come up through a small crack. Now there are 3 holes with like a little water spouts coming up out of each of them and sand washing down the street. So you know that sand is coming from underneath, and pretty soon there's going to be a big hole under that road. And pretty soon a car is going to fall in it. Pretty soon there'll be property damages and maybe even personal damages when that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Novak reminded me of a theme that came up during a lot of our hearings so far. The need for a balanced budget to be accurate in our historical data. For years, and I think a lot of people have heard the over projection and the under projection of our expenses. The way that looks for this year, an example, one of our departments in overtime thought we had found a pot of money of about $1.5 million in new spending. The department traditionally been spending or budgeting $300,000 annually for overtime. But when we were saying, no, you don't get extra overtime this year. This is not the year for extra overtime. But when we looked back and looked at the historical documents on it, since 2008, 1.2 million, 1.3 was the trend of what they spend. But we told a fib to ourselves 2 years ago that we could do it for $300,000. And that's the type of thing and that's just one department, but we did that in more than a few places. The next speaker is Rufus Holmes, the chairman of the Bibb County Retirement Association.
I was only going to speak on the agenda item, it's not on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Next is Mr. Garen Flanders.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I guess our biggest question is, why are you just now realizing you're a $16 million deficit? Anybody that's ran a business, you start running in a hole, you realize real quick, and you make adjustments. You don't get $16 million in debt before you decide that let's make an adjustment. And we're concerned you're balancing this budget on the backs of your employers or employees and your taxpayers, every one of them. I had the opportunity to sit in y'all's budget meeting last week. Some of the stuff has changed, very minutely has changed from what I listened to in there. In that budget meeting, I listened to how y'all handed out outside spending like it was candy. $600,000 to Navasset Health, $230,000 to the Tubman Museum, $400 to the Museum of Arts and Science. These are organizations that, yes, we need, but why are your employees asked to tighten their belt, but you're steady hand in hand into them? Ask them to tighten their belt. Travel expenses, city travel expenses of $750,000. I get it, we have to travel, we have to go places to see, mayor has to meet with people, we have to bring business in. $750,000, that's a little excessive. I've paid for out of my pocket my own training through the fire department because I wanted it, I needed it, I wanted to bring it back to my guys. Never once was I reimbursed a travel expense. Outside spending in the millions of dollars. Now you're asking employees and your taxpayers to foot the bill for liberal handouts. It just doesn't flow well with people. Excuse me. Quick breakdown of what y'all are talking, the furlough days, 3 days. Well, with the fire department, we work 60-hour weeks. If we take a holiday now that we're paid for, we get $100+ deducted out of our check, plus that 1%. So you're double dipping into our pockets by giving us furlough days. paying into a pension that when I was hired back in 2005 was part of my benefits package. Every one of these firemen that were hired, police officers and your other city employees, they were hired with a package, a benefit package. I was taught growing up, you don't take back what you gave. I had zero health cost. I understand health care is going up. You need to look into Macon Occupation as to why your health care is going up. The fire department, we go to the Macon Occupation and then turn right around and have to go to our general physician, then to a specialist, because they put us off duty because they don't want to take on the responsibility of a fireman maybe having a heart attack on the job. So you're paying 3 different premiums or 3 different times for doctors to look at one person for the same issue. And we were given zero cost health care, paid holidays, sick time, vacation time, and a pension in lieu of Social Security. Now you're wanting to take it back and us pay into it with no benefit to us, nothing to offer. And I'll tell you a lot about the fire department. These guys will work day in and day out and do extra. I've watched them bring pressure washers to the fire station. I've watched them paint fire stations with personal equipment to save the city money and to make their fire stations look good. I personally, with a couple other firemen, have saved over $100,000 on new fire stations, putting in irrigation and landscaping. All the city had to pay for was materials. I can promise you, you start dipping into these guys' pockets, they're going to answer the call. They're going to go and do exactly what they're trained to do and supposed to do. But the extras that they're saving you money will slowly dwindle away. I promise you. So before you consider this horrendous budget that has no benefit to your employees, consider their families. They're already low morale and their pocketbooks. You take your lowest paid employee for the city that makes less than $11.50 an hour and start taking 5% of his pay. Just do a quick math. I'll tell you this, the poverty rate in the United States is $24,600 a year for a family of 4. Do the math on your employee that you're fixing to take 5% of his pay for and see where it puts him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Mr. Jason Moss.
Hey, how are y'all doing? Sergeant Moss, Macon-Bibb County Fire Department. Balancing the budget on the backs of your employees and your residents that pay taxes is just not a good idea. Most of you don't know this, but firefighters work 24-hour shifts, and 4 o'clock in the morning, y'all are sleeping, we're working. So that's something to consider. We work on holidays, Saturdays and Sundays, we're working. So when you guys talk about taking holidays away from firefighters or furloughing, we're working on those days. July 4th, we're working. Christmas, New Year's, Christmas Eve, we're working. It's not like you can say, well, we're going to not give them holidays, because some of us are off on those days and the other half are working. So it's something you'll need to really consider. And there's plenty of funds outside the budget that you guys can cut. Garen actually hit a lot of points that I was going to hit. $750,000 for our travel expenses for the city. That just sounds ridiculous to me, but I don't know where you guys are going for $750,000. Sign me up, I'll go too. But there's a lot of places and a lot of fat you guys can cut. Don't do it on the backs of the taxpayers and the people that are working for you, because we do a lot for you. I don't know if you guys realize it or not, but we do a lot. But just keep that in mind. While y'all are sleeping, we're working. So we don't work 8-hour shifts. We work 24-hour shifts. And majority of firefighters, they don't get Saturdays and Sundays off. So we work Saturdays or Sundays, but we're working the weekends. Those hours, that time you're taking away from us, that's time away from our families, wives, kids, birthdays, anniversaries, just petty vacations that that you guys might take for granted. Oh, we're going to go take the family and go on vacation 3 or 4 days. A lot of firefighters can't do that. They're stuck with days that they have to come to work. So I just want y'all to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. It's not exactly typical fashion for you to get a lot of response from these type of events. I'm a little different, and when I think it may help, I'm going to take a few liberties. Travel. True, that is a fact that we are spending in the county 746,000 roughly, 740,000 roughly in travel and training. So it's called travel, and that does the actual use of injustice. It's really education and training. Certifications, the lion's share by far is post-certification for our sheriff's office. They go to TIF College, and those certifications are required and mandatory, and we want it to happen. There are excess that officers do that they pay for, but there is a minimum that, and also for some of our just in the inspections division, the pipers, the workers, there are a lot of things that require annual certifications. Particularly, I know that for the commission and the mayor's office included, we are inside of 30,000 amongst all of us for travel expenses, and the majority use it to go to GMA in Savannah is the only travel that a lot of these guys do. So that was one of the reasons it was looked at, it was discussed, but the reason we couldn't cut it was because it was for essential services. I think you got to realize that most of us are trying to figure this out too. And if it was available and if it was really fat, we cut it, or there's someone here that wants to cut it. Next speaker is Linda K. Nally.
Macon-Bibb County 2018 tax year annual assessment notice to property owners did not disclose proposed millage tax rate increase or associated tax liability. Macon-Bibb County government refused this taxpayer's request to reissue the notices to disclose proposed millage tax rate increase and associated estimated tax liability. Taxpayers have until June 25, 2018 to file a written appeal of assessment and associated tax liability. Proposed Macon-Bibb County budget for year 2019 does not disclose millage tax rate increase. The proposed for year 2019 real property tax revenue specified on the general fund revenues page is $68,477,403, which only represents a 1.6% increase over year 2018. Estimated tax liability increased 8.3% in 2018. The average combined municipal and school millage tax rate in state of Georgia is 30 mills. Current Macon-Bibb County millage tax rate of 37.466 should be capped and further reduced annually. Macon-Bibb County government employment, health care, and pension benefits far exceed national norms. Attached 3-paged compilation by department documents increases totaling $7,118,177 from year 2018 to 2019. Macon-Bibb County government employer is empowered to contribute up to 50% of an employee's eligible earnings to his or her pension fund. U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has been investigating securities fraud in pension funds administration in Macon-Bibb County since at least February 2017. Macon-Bibb County Board of Commission has authorized more than $337,000 for outside legal representation, and another $850,000 for outside legal representation has been proposed for year 2019. Macon-Bibb County government refused to provide this taxpayer a PDF file of almost 60,000 pages of documents. No millage rate increase should be approved until SEC's open investigation of securities fraud in pension funds administration in Macon-Bibb County is complete and the court ruling reached. Macon-Bibb County voters have no voice in resolution, ordinance, and budget approval. Only Macon-Bibb County Board of Commission has political power to approve resolutions, ordinances, and budgets. This political power has been atrociously abused and accounts for our epic ethical and economic crisis that will eventually bankrupt Macon-Bibb County if political system and structure is not changed. Lack of humility, honor, uniformity, disclosure, transparency, and accountability plagues Macon-Bibb County government. I beg all Macon-Bibb County taxpayers to consider the disastrous inflationary impact on current and future generations of taxpayers. Now is the time to stop advancement of unregulated power in municipal government. Boldly stand up and declare, no more politicians without principles, no more obnoxious ordinances, no more misuse of municipal funds, and no more tax increases. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Next speaker is Kathy Smith. Kathy Smith.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm speaking today in reference to the forensic audit that was requested, if I believe I'm correct, by Commissioner Allen and Commissioner Lucas. And honestly, I was curious how we got into $16 million of debt, and when the possibility of a forensic audit was mentioned, I thought, well, that was a good idea. And then I knew that it had to be a good idea when I read the mayor's response. I've held many I have been a bookkeeper in many positions in my life, and each and every time I moved on from that position, an audit was held, not to just protect that company, but to protect me. From 6 months down the road, somebody couldn't accuse me of something that took place after I left. I would rather my tax dollars go, and I understand what you mean, Commissioner Watkins, when you say we can't talk about it forever. But those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. If we don't find out where or what went wrong and why we are $16 million in debt, then 2 years from now, we may be $26 million in debt. I would rather my tax dollars go for the payment of an extensive, unbiased audit that explains how we got there. I don't care if it takes a year. So we know how we got there. Because let's face it, and as the gentleman said when he first spoke, this is a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. You are there for us because we can't do this. You have to do it for us. So at the end of the day, the answer is owed to us of where this $16 million came from. And I don't care if it takes a year. I don't want to say I don't care how much money it costs, but we need to know. We're owed that much.
Thank you, thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Willie Frazier. Mr. Willie Frazier.
Good afternoon, commissioners, mayor,
Afternoon.
and people, concerned people of the city of Macon. I'm here as well to talk about the forensic audit. I heard you know about it, and I heard the things up in the air. My concern, as well, is where the money went, because right now, where the money went, if we can't figure it out, then we need to figure out how to get it back. See, that's the important part of where it went. We can come in here all day long and ask where the money went, how it's been spent, how it's gone, and stuff like that. But now we need to figure out a way to try to make them back on track, to try to put it back up and make this a great city that it was before we wound up in debt. You see, one thing that I recognize is it's all right to eat steak, because I like to eat steak too when I got, steak money. But being that the city is in a broke situation, in a lower situation than what we need to try to get through, maybe we can't eat steak right now. We need to turn around and eat a little chicken. Because, see, we can't keep on eating steak on the same budget with chicken prices. So get with us as, your city people, because these are your city, these are your people that voted you in, to try to figure out ways to do that without keep on trying to eat steak when we at this place eating chicken, if you know what I mean. And see, I could talk in these ways, but I'm trying to make it simple so you'll recognize that, the finger is not always pointed at you. I'm not pointing fingers at certain ones and individuals, but I want to try to make a way that we all can pull together and try to make this happen. Because guess what? When you're good to the people that voted you in, I feel like they'll be good to you. You see, the reason why city government and all of that stuff work is because guess what? If one of those people, garbage didn't get picked up, I hadn't gotten so high. If I was in a city council seat and they came to me, I would hop in my personal truck and drive by their house and pour their garbage over in my truck and go and dump it for them, because guess what? That person gonna remember that. And they gonna come around and they'll do whatever it is that's necessary to make sure that I'm in the place that I need to be, because that man came to my house and he made a way. You see what I'm saying? People be willing to give you an extra tax dollar, an extra tax cents, an extra penny, an extra $5, anything to make the city work if you're working for them. But if everything that you do for them is hardship, you're going to have the hardest time trying to lead them somewhere than anybody in the world. Stand up and be the true leaders that I know that you are. Stand up for the things that you've always stood up for, because guess what? I got each and every one of you pictures in my phone. I follow a lot of the things that you do. I know that a lot of the historical stuff in Pleasant Hill started by some of you. I ain't going to tell you how I know that, but I know that because I research and I look into things. And you all stood for things that meant something. And it's sad to look at those things and see them things downgraded, squandered, being used because you used to care. And I feel like you still care. And if you still care, then do better than this was set before us. I know there's a way to find a way. And if you can't find a way, guess what? I heard somebody say this, and it seemed kind of silly to me, but it make a lot of sense. If you, as people that we entrusted, won't save us, then apparently we got to save ourselves. The lady said that we can't do this by ourselves, but if all of you step down, I still believe that we as a city can pull together and make this thing work just as well as we need somebody to make it work for us. We love y'all enough to give y'all an opportunity to make this right. Make it right for your city, and your city will make it right for you.
So in 2015, when we were projecting our revenues, it was the first full year in consolidation, we assumed that we had an assumption that we would generate $31 million in sales tax. That year, we only generated $29 million. That same year in franchise fees, we made an assumption that we would generate $12 million. We only generated $8 million. Those two line items created a shortfall for that 1 year of $6 million. And then we repeated those same assumptions, 12 million and 31, again the following year, and received just about our same 8 and 29. that is how over projection of revenues leads to a loss, particularly when you don't adjust the expenses for those errors, is how we did that. Our next speaker is Terry Simmons. Terry Simmons.
Hello. I'm nervous because I haven't spoken to a crowd like this since I was in college. But anyway, I have been in speech class. I have always been a leader in my field, which is accounting. In Bibb County Finance Department, I worked for 12 plus years for former Finance Director Deborah Martin. When consolidation happened, I worked for 2 years at this complex, City Hall, for 2 years upstairs on the 3rd floor. Anyway, I was hired in August of 2001, and I would like to urge all current employees, former employees, and all retirees to question the integrity of this administration. Every one of you. I, as a financial professional, have very serious doubts about every one of your integrity, with the exception of Mr. Joe Allen. When I questioned the integrity of this administration, I wrote certified letters to each and every one of you commissioners, every one of you. And every one of you ignored, did not get, I don't know what happened, but I talked to the mayor just a few weeks ago and asked him, Mr. Mayor, did you get my correspondence? I don't recall, he says. Well, if you didn't, I'm sorry. I have a certified stamped thing saying it was delivered to this complex. Okay? I do. But I want to urge every single one of you to question the integrity of this administration, the integrity of their budget, and the budget process. A regular audit does not guarantee that fraud will be discovered. I heard mentioned in the Telegraph from Miller Edwards, the auditor for former Bibb County. He was quoted as saying that revenues came in $30 million under budget. I believe that those numbers were fudged because the administration wants to spend $100 million and they're only going to get $30 million. I want you all to question why. Please question all the key players in this administration. Miller Edwards is smarter than a stack of accounting books, and I trust his judgment. I believe with all my heart in everything that I have learned in my 14 years as cash manager for Bibb County government and as a CPA that this administration is wasteful, reckless, and not good stewards of our taxpayer funds. I was told when I expressed concerns about waste and abuse by this government, the one key player, senior manager who is no longer in his position, told me that they did not need a watchdog, political watchdog. I think that person was wrong. This administration did not need a political watchdog. Really? So where's the $33 million that we had when this government consolidated? Where? I'd like to know. Do you know? Do you know? Where? Where, Mr. Mayor? Where? Tell me. Share with us, please. We're begging to know. If you won't tell, then maybe somebody will come down here and audit and find it, and then point fingers. Point fingers at you, and you. I am mad because after I brought this to the administration's attention by certified mail, email, personal visits to chambers. I don't see Scotty Shepherd. I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to say a name. I don't see the commissioner from my district. But I do know this gentleman here called me. I worked as a dedicated employee for the former finance director, Deborah Martin, for over 12 years. I think most of you in this office know who she is. Most of you know who she is. I think you know she's hard to work for. After I expressed my concerns, I was blacklisted and my job was eliminated. I was escorted out of this building. Maybe I'm saying more than I need to say, but you know what? I went 3 years without being able to get a job in Bibb County because of this. 3 years. and I done had it up to here. Please address, okay, balanced budget. I think this administration, I already said that. I feel for all of you firefighters and sheriff's department employees, because if I had to risk my life every day, I know they wouldn't be able to pay me enough. We appreciate everything you guys and gals do for us, but I will move out of Bibb County. I will shop outside of Bibb County, and I will vote down any handling this administration, giving this administration any more of our tax money. I guess when you lay with dogs, you get fleas, obviously. I experienced similar situations that another lady expressed on open records request.
Please wrap up.
Excuse me?
Please wrap up.
Okay. I experienced similar situations when I asked for open records request. Blatant denial. No response. Wanting to charge me hundreds of dollars for a few pages, even though I requested those to be
Thank you.
on PDF. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Tyrell Hogan. Tyrell Hogan.
First of all, I would like to say congratulations on y'all holding y'all seats, and I do appreciate all the hard work and due diligence that y'all put into making our great city great. Now that we got past that, as far as the budget goes, the budget itself is not shot due to the fact that there has been numerous cutbacks, and because the sales are down in the entire city, it's causing other individuals to have to lose money. Now, that doesn't fall on the city, it falls on the way that the world works. And because of the way the world is working, it's going to cause for more work in the way that you ask for the more overtime to try and offset what we like to call the internet. Because the majority of the sales tax go to the internet, it's entirely impossible for small business owners to make their money. What's going to happen is not the city and the city council to consolidate. There are different organizations within the city will have to consolidate to mix and make sure the funds are handled properly. When you find yourself in certain areas of the city itself, the culture of that area has to be maintained, as well as raising of the revenue for that particular side of town. So whatever is brought to that particular side of town has to be well worth it. To bring an organization to a side of town in which that you know wouldn't work, that is the misappropriation of funds, and I can understand individuals being upset about that. And it's pretty much a revolving door at this point. And the revolving door doesn't stop until there is a meeting of minds that's met with the understanding of certain people have to not step down because they earn their slots. Certain people don't have to, I guess, apologize for what reason. Mistakes happen. If there's a situation to where you're betting on the city and you're betting on the community to do what's necessary for the city to flourish, then those are funds that can't be accounted for. Now, the majority of the funds can be accounted for. There are some funds that can't be accounted for due to the fact that you have miscellaneous taxable expenses that come about when traveling. Now, I'm not making excuses for you because at the end of the day, I want my money too. So I don't feel like people should yell at you. I don't feel like you should get mad at anybody for voicing their opinions due to the fact that there are certain salaries that exonerate you from being in poverty-stricken situations. With that being said, the question is with this: how is it that we can lift taxable sales, increase jobs, and certify individuals to rotate out of this town into other cities due to the fact that the city's overpopulated anyway? That's the question. There are individuals who have an answer. I don't know who that individual is, but I just so happen to feel like that might be one of the problems. I do appreciate you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Shelby Neal. Shelby Neal.
Thank you. I wasn't going to say anything but amen from all these that have already said what they said, but I have got something to say. When you said just a few minutes ago that y'all took the following year and used the year that you lost money the following year. Why would you go back and take that first year and use it as an example when you lost money the following year? We don't do that at my house. You know, if our power goes up the next year, we adjust to that next year. So, you know, we need to run this like a house, like a business, and look at that. Okay, there's another thing I need to talk about. It's blight. Blight comes, people are moving out of Macon. Y'all know that. They're moving. And they're moving to Houston County and Perry and all those places. Okay, one thing, the taxes are cheaper, but also it's nicer. Okay. Blight. I've got a house next door to a business that I own that I had to pay an astronomical amount to go through planning and zoning to get. And the house is, you can't even see the house. It's just covered up. I've asked and asked. Can we get this house torn down? Can we do something about it? So I went down to the tax office and checked. Those people have not paid. They have not had an increase on their house since I think it was 87, something like that, 97. They have not had an increase. Now, mine that I keep up next door to it goes up all the time. And I keep it up. But that house, blight is messing up this town horribly. I believe it would really help communities if we would tear down the blight houses, give them 2 years, give them 3 years to get in there and fix it. Because sometimes sicknesses or something or other can come in and affect a person. But after that time, do an eminent domain if you have to. Do whatever you have to do to get that house out of the way so that it doesn't. Then another thing, I see in Houston County all the time, inmates cleaning the roads. I hardly ever see an inmate in Macon cleaning the roads. We do prison ministry, me and my husband. Do you know when they get out and work and stuff, when they come back into the jail, now look, I do ministry, so I want them out. I want them doing good. I'm not talking against, they're there for a reason. But when they come in, they're tired. They're tired. When they work down on the roads, they're tired. They're not going to cause trouble in the jails, and they're going to go to bed. So there's a purpose to that, too. But I've been told here in Macon they can't work if it's too hot. They can't work if it's too cold. Well, my son works for UPS, and he works no matter what. My husband worked for the post office. These firemen work, it don't matter where it's hot or cold. So I think that we should use that and get our city looking back. Do you know, we have been so blessed. We have been so blessed. Can you imagine a town getting Amazon to come to it? I mean, whoever done all that work? If it was y'all, thank you. Whoever done it. And that's going to bring in a multitude of jobs for just not Macon, but Middle Georgia area. We need to make Amazon proud of our town. And right now, I don't think they'll be proud of it because they'll see the citizens really upset about what's going on in this town. So I'm going to ask y'all, this is a thing I say. If you got a person that owns a blight house, charge them more taxes. Go up on their taxes. Give me a decrease in my taxes because I keep my property up. Give me an incentive. Give them a want to. I want to keep mine up so my taxes will go up. It's sort of vice versa. So that's all I got to say, and I sure will say everybody else is doing good.
So when we began consolidation, as it's been mentioned several times, we had $40 million nearly in the bank. And we did budget reviews, in-depth budget reviews and conversations on an annual basis. And $5 million coming out of 40 was noticeable, but not that significant in terms of 2014. In 2018, where we are now, still $5 million needs to come out of the bank roughly, but we only have $5 million left. And We've switched up as a body from doing annual or semi-annual budget years to quarterly and monthly reviews. And one of the reasons you're hearing about our budget 3 million to 10 to 16 is because we're doing reviews and making adjustments, or at least learning that information. And it's my belief that as we continue to go with monthly and quarterly hearings, that these type of things will not happen because we will make adjustments in real time. Our next speaker is Carol Grant. Carol Grant. If she's downstairs and comes back, I'll give her a chance. Next speaker is Alex Grubbs. Alex Grubbs.
Thank you for the opportunity. When I was growing up, there was a popular song. Some of the lyrics said, she's so fine, there's no telling where the money went. Here recently, I've been wondering which one of y'all have been dating her. We were just here in February, and back then, y'all were blaming employees, babies, and cancer patients for the budget crisis, and that's Bibb County logic for you. Here's some other examples of Bibb County logic. The same budget that cuts outside agency spending adds a new outside agency to the lot and increases spending on one of the outside agencies that already existed. Another example of Bibb County logic, which has already been brought up, we project the revenues for the budget, we fail to collect that projected amount of revenues, and in response, our solution is we willingly repeat the same mistake the next year and expect to put that mistake at the feet of employees, homeowners, and those same babies and cancer patients. The truth is, here's the truth that wasn't said a couple months ago. Even though health benefits and pension costs did increase over the past couple of years, overall employee costs, according to the PowerPoint that we were given and is published on the commissioner's website, those costs decreased. As a matter of fact, it's been said in the media in the past couple of weeks by y'all's auditor, or by the county's auditor, that the expenditures in last year's budget came in under projections. Income was the category that was incorrect. So spending and the increases in spending and what you're spending on pay and health care and everything else was exactly what y'all expected it to be. Less than what y'all expected it to be. So your expenditures, by word of your own auditor, were not the issue. It was the income. Increasingly, your employees are working with less and less staff, and now you're asking them to work with less pay as well. This pay cut is proposed through these furlough days, increases in health care and pension plans. Two of these cuts, health care and pension, are being proposed before the newly formed committees formed just within the past couple of months. They're tasked with looking into alternatives, can even finish their work to give y'all recommendations. Somebody else said this, and I wanted to make sure I brought it up as well. This is going to hit the county's lowest paid employees the worst. You are literally going to be taking Christmas, meals, birthdays, college education funds off their tables and out of their bank accounts. And you lose sight of the fact that many of those same employees are homeowners too, and you're hitting them with the home tax increases as well. Your constituents are being penalized to both live here and work here. The budget's a disaster. The county is in crisis. I know things have got to change. Privatization of services was mentioned. That conversation was cut off. It wasn't taken up as a possibility for this budget. Costs can still be trimmed. I understand and I appreciate the fact that there are meetings quarterly and monthly to look over the budget. Costs can still be cut somewhere. please don't vote for health care increases, pension plan contributions, or any of those items until at least these committees can finish their work and find long-term, permanent solutions, not just Band-Aids, to fix this issue. Thank you for my time.
And when it comes to the healthcare committee, the committee of the Operations and Finance Committee considered amending the healthcare cost line item, but the concept to do it with no data, no history of what those changes actually saved us is dangerous, in my opinion, because we'd be projecting future. Versus just using the data. So I think we all know that healthcare changes are coming and that will have some impact on our budget. But as it was stated, that committee just started meeting, and to anticipate that they save us $2 or $3 million and it ends up not working out would be risky in this budget scenario. So that's why you don't see that reflection in this year's budget. Valerie Wynn is our next speaker. Valerie Wynn. And that is also our last speaker. Oh. And also there was a Carol Grant that missed an opportunity earlier. Thank you for that recommendation. Do any commissioners, and I'm about to close, if any commissioners or the mayor will have any closing statements they would like to make? She took it, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And so as a response to that, to correct that, one of the things that we did in this budget is we only budgeted 98% of last year's revenues to trying to course correct that scenario. Correct. Next speaker is Ms. Valerie Wynn.
Thank you. Last but not least, right? A lot of good things have been said today already. A lot of good comments, a lot of questions have been brought up. So I won't beat a dead horse. I'll just get to a specific thing I wanted to address about the budget. First of all, when you look, and I'm catching my breath from running up the stairs. I was in the dungeon downstairs. But I wanted to talk about the three biggest things in our budget are salaries, pension plans, and health care. That's probably true with most companies and corporations. I don't want to see us touch salaries. Our law enforcement and firemen and our city employees, they do a lot of good. If anything, we'd like to give them raises. But don't clap too loud and long, because when it comes to pension plans are a thing of the past. I've said this to the commission before. The thing that most corporations now use are 401k plans. You just need to be understand what it is. I haven't seen a pension plan in 30 years, and I worked for 45 years in private industry. Private industry. And we can do it. As of, say, August the 1st, 2018, we can say anybody hired as of that date going forward can be under a 401k plan. If we had done that 20 years ago, just that, then we would have saved a lot of money. Let me speak.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Point of order. No one spoke while you were speaking.
Yeah,
Just
thank you
direct
very
y'all
much.
statements to the chair. It works
Thank
better.
you. That's why I said don't applaud too loud and long, because pension plans need to be addressed. That's what I'm saying to you. Need to be addressed. Healthcare had a big hit this past year. $5 million is a lot of money when you don't anticipate catastrophes with healthcare. That's something you can't avoid, you can't prevent, you can't predict. But going forward, we need to look at other plans for health care that are just as good, that maybe save the employees more money. Okay, I'm all in favor of employees. But let me just address one part of the budget that I've always been arguing about with you guys, and that's the other agencies. And again, there are people here that are representing the other agencies. And I don't know, let me just talk to you about where the taxpayers' money goes, where our property taxpayers' money should go, let's put it that way, to the administration of county governments and for the public school system. It should be used to build and maintain public buildings, bridges, and county roads. In other words, facilities. Pay expenses of courts, county jail, and law enforcement. Provide fire protection, safety, and law enforcement. Provide parks and recreation. Provide solid waste management. Those are a few of the major things that your property taxes should go for. Nowhere in here did I see outside agencies. Did you hear me say that? I don't know when this community started funding outside agencies, how long we've been doing it, but I think it's time to revisit that. Would you rather have funding for, and I'm going to give one that I love and I will give to forever, Meals on Wheels. It's essential to this community. But we can do that by donations from this community. That's how the rescue mission works, guys. That's how Loaves and Fishes works, guys. I don't want my taxpayer money to be given to something I don't want to use, and some of these outside agencies I don't have anything to do with. And some of them are very beloved to me. But I want to make that contribution. I don't think the city proper taxpayers' money should go to that. That's not what I pay my taxes for. My taxpayer money should go to support the essential services of running the city government in this community. There are things we can do. I'm going to back up just a minute to the pension plan. We have what right now we call as a defined pension plan, which is a pension plan. And we can change that to a defined contribution plan, a 401k plan. Let me go back now to the outside agencies. Again, I'm not heartless. I think we should have these agencies, but I think they should be supported by private people, not by the public sector here. Maybe I have that backwards. You should be supporting it, okay? If somebody said to you, come around and said, will you give me 1% of your salary for a year to support some of these agencies? You know, 1% is nothing when you think about it. And if you want to support funding for food, clothing, shelter for people that really need it, that run into hard times, we need to be able to do that as a public, as a community that lives together, and works for the betterment of the whole community. You know, there are some, I'll give you an example of where we can get, I told the commission this. We've been giving these outside agencies fish. One more thing. We need to give them a fishing pole to fish for their own funds.
Thank you.
There's this, is that you going to cut me off, Virgil? Okay, one more thing. Just one more little thing, okay? $250,000 was given anonymously to one of our little play places, theaters in Macon. If that money is out there, Macon's got money, and it's generous. Just ask for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Virgil.
So it's important when we talk about the outside agencies to realize that 80% of the agencies that we fund, that we call outside agencies, are the Macon Transit Authority, Department of Family and Children's Services, the library, planning and zoning, and the health department. That's 8 million of the 10 million that we fund when we talk about outside agencies. I understand that unfortunately we created a us versus them scenario, our general employees versus outside agencies, but all of you are immensely vital to what makes Macon Macon. And just as we need the fire department, several Maconites need Department of Family Children Services on a daily basis. Several of our Macon folks need the library system for their kids and everything else that has to do with education. I understand that we provide some discretionary tone about them, but the large part, the transit authority, way too many people use those buses to go to work every day for us not to consider them slightly above discretionary. I understand that they might not be emergency or essential services, but they are important to what we do. And that's why a lot of commissioners have issue with zeroing them out. Commissioner Allen? Yes, sir. I'm not able to do the...
You can't do it? You don't know how to do it?
Oh, you're on, you're on.
Well, I just thought you would. This is for everybody downstairs as those that are here upstairs. We have a hard road ahead of us. And I thank each and every one of you. I talk to a lot of you, but those that you need to be here, not just today, not just this Tuesday night or some Tuesday morning. You need to make a point to be here more than what you come, just when we have an issue. Because this is your city, this is your county. We have a lot of issues out there. And so we do make mistakes. But we need you, when you have an issue, call us. You got our telephone numbers. Our numbers are out there. But I just want to tell you, a lot of times, sometimes we can't get back to you. Sometimes we got our own jobs that we have to work. But I thank you from the bottom of my heart that you did come. I wish more people, I was looking to be here about 11 o'clock. I wish more people would have got up and spoke, because you had there was a lot of people I talked to earlier from the fire department, from the sheriff's office, and from this little thing right here that's calling right now. People calling now wanting to know what's going on. They should have been here, because it's your tax dollars, my tax dollars, and people coming into this community spending tax dollars through their sales tax. But again, thank you. God bless each and every one of you. But please come. Get involved with your government. It's your government, okay? That's through, sir.
Thank you, sir. If there's no other information, yes, Commissioner Lucas. Try it again.
Okay. I too want to express my appreciation to all of you who have shown up here today. And I'm like Commissioner Allen, we want to see you more than just when things happen like this, where there's, you know, a mad rush to come and see about stuff. This thing didn't just happen today. This has been gradually coming about, taking place, forming over the years. There have been some of us that have been sounding the alarm over time. And I think you ought to know that in the past, we've not always had the kinds of budget hearings that we should have had. Maybe an hour here, an hour there, maybe, you know, limited questions, that kind of thing. But when we started with this new consolidated government, which I, by the way, did not support, I thought that we should have moved into it gradually. And by now, we would have had everything all worked out like it should, and you would not be facing this crisis that we're facing now. But that's neither here nor there. We've got the problem now, and we've all got to pull together. And I want to compliment our chair, because previous chair did not have budget hearings like that were open and welcoming and for citizens to come to. Our hearings that we're having now are a longer period of time. There's more input from a whole lot of other people, and we are getting more details. We're also working on a plan to come up with a list of specific areas. We will not be doing the forensic audit. We didn't think we had enough support for that for whatever reason, but there will be an audit nevertheless, and it will look at specific areas of our financial system that we need to remove or we need to tweak to make sure that we don't ever have this kind of situation again. It is very, very tough. I have to compliment our chair because he has really pulled in a lot of information, and what we are trying to do is to get the administration to work along with the committee rather than working independently and then presenting something to us and then we're supposed to just rubber stamp it. That's what's been expected, and that's been the problem. So hopefully going forward with your insistence, we can have that kind of cooperation, and it won't just be the mayor putting together a budget and giving it to us and saying, y'all approve this by a certain time. We will have all worked this thing together, and we won't have the kind of problems that we have now. It is going to be tough to come up with something that works this time. But I'm pledging to you, and I think the others on the committee have pledged, and our Mayor Pro Tem is in this with us as well. We have pledged that we're going to look at every area of the finances of Macon-Bibb, something that we did not do. We were so busy jumping into this new system trying to govern until we really have not had the time or taken the time to look at all of the details that we should have. There was an assumption that whatever the administration, since the charter is a very, very strong mayor set up, there's been that assumption that we really were supposed to just go along with things. That is not the assumption that I've had, but I've been outvoted on some stuff. So now it is time for us to take a strong, hard look at this thing, and for this commission to understand that we give the final approval to this budget. I've been told, and I don't know whether it was a threat or not, but I was told several times that, well, y'all do this or the mayor's going to come back and line item veto stuff. And I have said the rest of the commission can, with 6 votes, override that. And so what we need to be doing is working as hard as we can, putting some strong systems in place, putting some oversight, more oversight in place. We need to make sure that we have the right people working on the budget, folks who know what they're doing, and we also need for this committee chair to continue the work that he is doing in pushing to get the right information at the right time and not let letting people come in and tell us, well, I don't have that information right now, but I'll get it and get back to you. And you know what happens with that. So I'm pledging to you today that I'm in this for the long haul, and we are going to work as hard as we can to make sure that we spread this. There's some pain now. There's going to be some pain. But what we're going to do is to work as hard as we can to spread it out and thin it out as much as we possibly can. You won't like everything that comes out of this, but you will like some things. You will like some things. The best thing that come out of this is you're going to know where your money is coming from and where that money is going. That's what you're going to know. So, Ms. Chair, I applaud you for the work that you're doing and others, and Commissioner Allen and I are still pushing for those changes and the strengthening of the systems that's going to give us accurate accounting of your money. So y'all work with us, stay down here so you know what's going on, because we don't know everything that's going on all the time, but that's going to change too. We're going to know what's going on down here. So y'all please don't just let this be this one time that you're down here. Please come back, sign up. address your concerns and let us know what you want, because that's what we said we were going to do when we offered for office. We said we were going to be responsive to you, so you got to make us responsive, though. You've got a responsibility in this as well, just like we do. But we've got a tremendous task ahead of us, but we are facing it head on, and you're going to see some better accounting of your money going forward. We promise this to you.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. We have a special call meeting proceeding right now, making bacon and some other items. Thank you all for your attendance.
Can we get a copy of the charter that you're operating under, place